My name's Sam Mernier and I'm a Development and Outreach Officer for the Library Service. I'm our Book Start Coordinator. I work on events and various programmes, and with Annette have been leading on accessibility for our Library Service for the last couple of years.
Okay, I'm Annette Price and I'm an operational team leader for Library and Information Services. So I manage, or one of the managers of 3 core libraries. We're obviously flexible and move around. We do lots of events, story times, baby banks, things like that. So it's a really interesting role.
So I'm Izzy Hudson. I'm an apprentice here at the library. I was brought on to kind of be an accessibility champion with the team because I have some access needs myself, so it's been really interesting helping the library develop good ways of changing and developing. I've really enjoyed it. I'm just about to finish my first year of my apprenticeship and move on to another year.
That's very exciting. And you mentioned having an accessibility champion. Where did that idea come from?
It grew out of accessibility being one of our core priorities last year particularly, and Annette and I have been working on that, looking at all sorts of things and how we can develop the team, and we set up the champions in the summer. We have 1 in each library, and their role is to take an active role in advocating for things for the library service. So if they spot something that could be improved, to kind of come to us and work through what we could do to improve the service, but also to have some development opportunities. So we provided deaf awareness training this year for champions, plus any other staff that we could release to go on the training, but with providing a front-facing service it's difficult to do that, so the champions will always have priority for training for that kind of thing. We just felt it would be really nice to have a group of us working in different roles to come together. And I say come together, but we haven't all actually met physically yet, but virtually we meet, and it's worked really well, and we're going to continue even though we have different strategic priorities for the coming year. Accessibility is moving into our business as usual, and the champions are a really key part of that. And it's been lovely having Izzy working with Ailey, who's the other champion here at Bath Central Library. They've been brilliant at doing lots of improvements for the service.
And how did you go about recruiting your champions?
That is a really good question.
Well, we did ask for any volunteers because we do get several staff who are interested in doing different things and like channeling their energy on things. So obviously Izzy was chosen here, and we've kind of gone for members of staff who really don't mind putting themselves out there, and they're not frightened to challenge us as well, isn't it? And then they can roll out training as well for us. So if not everybody can go, then they will attend the training, and they may be able to roll it out to the other team members.
And Izzy, I'm really interested, what challenges have you discovered? Because what I think is always interesting about a challenge is that it's a way to learn and adapt. So what kind of have you found in the last year?
One of the main things I kind of found is a lot of our signage and book binding is very reflective, and that's great because it protects the books and gives them a longer life, but when you're trying to look at them, it's really hard to see what they are. So we've been implementing changes to change like our spine labelling so it's a lot clearer, and add kind of dividers on our shelves so that they're more evenly spaced, and so even if they're still a bit reflective, you're only looking at 10 books instead of 50 in a row. But also just walking around, you have that hat on of looking for things, and it's really interesting picking up on things that maybe if you've worked here for 10 years you wouldn't necessarily notice, or as challenges come up it's just a new take on it, which I find really interesting.
Libraries are kind of seen as a place of print, which can sometimes be a bit alienating to the VI community. How have you been able to engage with them, and also what other things can you offer to them? I'm fascinated to know that other libraries might be able to learn from.
One thing we have that's been new in the last year is a new virtual library, which is we have the council website, but the virtual library enables us to put more content on there and actually been nominated. Emily, who set it up and done the work on it, has been nominated for
Libraries Connected Awards.
Yes, so we're really proud of that and her and how she's approached it. We've just developed this year large print guides to each of our locations, and Emily has turned those into web pages on the virtual library, so that's a really good development. So anyone who wants to come into our spaces but doesn't necessarily know about the access here can check out those pages. That's one thing. Obviously we have all the content in Borrow Box, and you know, all of our teams know how to advise people on how to use them if they have accessibility needs.
I think one thing that's really grown this year is the home library service, because we have a team of volunteers who will pick out books for people they work with and then deliver them to their home and then collect them from them and bring them back. It's for people that maybe can't get out to the library because of a physical disability or issue, or we have a large number of visually impaired customers who struggle to leave their house, so potentially we get them audiobooks, and then the home library volunteers get a really good working relationship with that person, so it gives them a chance to really get to know them and builds that kind of community connection that they would otherwise be missing.
And that's really perfect in terms of any isolation as well, isn't it, and loneliness, because that's a big part of it. I would be really interested to hear from you, Izzy, what advice you would give to anyone with a visual impairment who feels nervous about coming to the library for the first time.
That is a big question. I think I had also been pretty scared of going to libraries for a really long time. I went to them as a child. I came here when I was really young, but it was much smaller then. It was before we took over the whole top floor. And it is scary because they're all different layouts, they're different colour schemes, there's no kind of one coherent way to go around a library. The biggest thing I think is just come and speak to us. We're really friendly, we're really welcoming. We want to give everybody a great experience in the library, and the best way to get over your fear is to speak to us. Or if that's something that's also really difficult for you, check out our Instagram, check out our social media. We're posting guides on everything. We've got videos of our areas, and it's just to try and promote inclusivity and accessibility for everyone.
And on that note, content has become quite a key part of library services now, and as you mentioned, it can be really nice to see somewhere before you go it, or to hear about it before you go somewhere, and sort of experience before you've walked through the door. How have you gone about creating that content, and has that been quite a challenge?
Well, we have, in terms of information about our buildings, we've got paper-based guides and we make them available online. We also have ambitions to create videos for each of the library spaces to talk around accessing them. We've applied for some funding for that, so we're keeping our fingers crossed, but if not, we will try and make it ourselves. Preference is to have a professional person build the content for us, but that's really nice, and our accessibility champions would be involved in providing the content for those, and we have people in each of our teams who have volunteered to be the voice and the face of those videos should we be able to make them. So that's something that's kind of on the to-do list if we can, because we're conscious that we would like to provide that, and lots of, not just libraries, lots of other services provide that kind of content.
Annette talked a lot about Central Library. You work in other libraries elsewhere.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with challenges there? What tips could you give for people who may be in more rural spots or smaller libraries?
So we've obviously got rural areas as well. We too have the accessibility guides and the champions there. Again, as Izzy said, we've got lots of online resources. We also have a mobile library that goes out on a regular route around to the rural little villages. So again, as well as touching on the loneliness and isolation earlier, we're taking ourselves out in order, to serve our customers as well. But yeah, it's just word of mouth really, and publicity. So,
It's quite nice. I work on the mobile library sometimes, and you do build a really good relationship with the regular customers. We have quite a few who, that's like a big thing in their week, is the mobile library coming to visit. And so we have really good selection of large print on there. We also have some audiobooks, but because it's quite a small vehicle, we can't keep everything on there. But we're on hand as well, so if that customer really wants a certain book or an author, we can make reservations from there, and then because it's a regular staff going out, we all just get to know everyone, which is really lovely.
I'm really interested to know, Sam and Annette, what have you learned that you think is the one key learning from your accessibility ambassadors?
Gosh,
I guess it's that you're always learning.
you are always
and you do something, and there's always a hope that you can develop it more and change it, and get feedback. We always want to know how we can improve what we've developed, and keep training up to date.
I think that's it, because we had Steve Hyde from the RNIB. He came out and gave us some training in all locations, and when he came out, it really opened, or like the staff, they were really engaged with what he was talking about, and he obviously brought along his aids that he uses. Staff were able to use them, and we had some really lovely feedback from the staff regarding that training, and staff actually emailed him themselves to thank him for coming along. So I think using people like Steve in the space, who is a user of the library as well, has also helped us to maybe understand a little bit more. We've definitely, made us see more than we realised that we weren't doing. I think we're doing a lot more than we realised we weren't doing, if that makes sense.
And is there anything that you have learned that libraries do that you weren't aware of?
Yeah, everything that we do kind of outreach, I didn't realise when I applied for this job, I didn't realise how much we were involved in the community. I think libraries have become a really important third space in communities, and everything we have is so exciting and interesting. Every day we have different family groups in, or Baby Bounce and Rhyme, or we had guide dogs in doing a play group, and it's really exciting just building those connections, and it's made it a lot more interesting working here, because I think sometimes people get the impression that a library is really quiet and not very busy, and actually we're very busy.
And also you do have your sensory space for if anybody wants to escape from that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. We have 3 sensory spaces, one in each of our core libraries. They're free for any individuals or groups that want to use them. They're really great for small children, but also adults. We don't mind anyone who wants to use them as a quiet space. All the sensory spaces have a dark den, some sensory lighting, and some tactile toys. They're really nice spaces just to escape the city, or you have some users who might go to an event and then use the sensory space afterwards.
We've actually got a lady who comes in with her daughter and her dad's actually disabled, and he comes in and he's able to actually engage with his grandchild even more in that small space.
Wow.
We've had some really lovely feedback from them actually. And we've also got the sensory bags too, so we've got some bags that are available in all our spaces.
Yes, so those have an accessibility guide, a picture-based guide to the space that you're in, and some fidget toys, and ear defenders, and a book. And actually our sensory spaces are quite useful if we've got events on. So recently we had a theatre group come in and deliver a children's show, and we had a class in, and a teaching assistant was able to take a child out and use the sensory space during the event. So it's a really flexible space for us, and we try and make it available to people if they need it then and there, but it is bookable on Eventbrite.
And you were saying as well that you purposefully filled it with things that people would be able to buy themselves if they wanted to, which I think is a really lovely touch. A final question for each of you: what would be your number 1, or you may have 1 or 2, top tips for any other libraries who want to engage with their VI audiences in more ways?
Diversity in book buying is really important. I think it's quite easy to assume that individuals with visual impairments are older individuals only, and that is just not the case. So expanding your collection to include YA titles or children's titles is really important. We've recently been buying more dyslexia friendly adult fiction as well, and I just think it makes it a lot more inclusive to a wider audience, because it isn't just an older audience, and it can be quite easy to fall into the trap of just buying kind of romances and actually we want to encourage everybody to use our space.
For me, I think it'd be reaching out to partners. We've really benefited from learning from the RNIB, from Steve Hyde, who works regionally, but also Lara has been brilliant, and also just the different partners who use our spaces, like the Guide Dogs event. That's been invaluable, I think, for us.
Yeah, and we've got customers who regularly come in who with visual impairments, and they've actually given us tips, top tips as well about somebody looked at our books and said, oh, actually, I think you could do with this and this. So we've gone ahead and gone away and looked at our stock slightly differently.
So listening to people with lived experience is a
Absolutely.
really, really key thing.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing fantastically. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.